The Valfori Dominion's massive warships materialized in Earth's orbit without warning, their hulls bearing scars from 100 conquered worlds. During the emergency United Earth Council broadcast, Ambassador Kareth, a towering figure with translucent skin revealing shifting organs, delivered their ultimatum with practiced disdain: surrender within one standard cycle, 30 Earth days, or face annihilation. Screens worldwide displayed the alien smirk as he showcased holographic footage of planets being reduced to molten slag. When Dr. Elena Reyes stepped forward as Earth's spokesperson, the alien ambassador visibly relaxed, expecting submission from this small, physically unimposing human. Instead, she fixed him with an unwavering gaze and delivered Earth's response. "You may have conquered others, but challenging humanity would be your greatest mistake." As global markets crashed and panic began, Kareth's laughter echoed through the transmission, until Elena revealed that Earth had already decoded their supposedly unbreakable communications and knew the Valfori fleet's critical weakness. The ambassador's expression shifted to confusion as Elena ended the transmission, leaving him wondering how much humans truly knew. Behind the council chambers, Elena collapsed into her chair, the confident facade crumbling momentarily. "How much time did I buy us?" she asked General Santos, who stood grimly reviewing tactical displays. "Not enough," he replied, "but more than they intended to give." The Valfori warships repositioned into a standard siege formation, a tactic they'd perfected across dozens of worlds. Their analysts were already processing Earth's broadcasts, cataloging resources, mapping infrastructure, standard procedure for a species that had extermination down to a science. In her private quarters that evening, Elena studied the Valfori biological profile their xenobiologists had assembled. The species' evolutionary history suggested they evolved as apex predators on a resource-scarce world. Their translucent skin once served as camouflage in their homeworld's crystalline forests, now preserved as a mark of racial pride despite being a tactical vulnerability. "They've conquered 12 systems," Admiral Chen reported during the midnight briefing. "No species has lasted more than 3 standard cycles once the Dominion set its sights on them." "What makes them so effective?" Elena asked. "Technological superiority, primarily," replied Dr. Isamu Takeda, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Division. "But it's their predictability that interests me most. Each conquest follows the exact same pattern: ultimatum, demonstration, subjugation. They've never needed to adapt because they've never faced meaningful resistance." Elena's eyes narrowed. "And what happens to the conquered species?" The room fell silent before Admiral Chen activated a classified file. "Genetic harvesting. They extract desirable traits for their bioengineering programs, preserve a small population as study specimens, and eradicate the rest." Elena stared at the projection showing billions of lives reduced to data points. "Have they ever accepted surrender?" "Yes," said Chen, "only to betray it once their forces were in position." The following morning, Ambassador Kareth requested a private audience with Elena. The council advised against it, but she insisted. "I've reviewed your species' history," Kareth said when they met, his voice carrying the artificial warmth of a practiced diplomat. "Quite fascinating how frequently you wage war upon yourselves. Surely you recognize the futility of resistance against a unified empire that has never known defeat." Elena smiled. "You've studied our conflicts but missed their significance. Humans have been practicing war against the most dangerous opponent possible, other humans, for thousands of years. We've survived nuclear standoffs, biological threats, and climate catastrophes. We're still here." "Charming bravado," Kareth replied, "but ultimately meaningless. Your species will make an interesting addition to our biological archives, the specimens that talked boldly before their extinction." As he turned to leave, Elena called after him. "Ambassador, one question. Why do the Valfori always target worlds with liquid water oceans?" The ambassador froze momentarily, a reaction too subtle for most to notice, but Elena had been trained to recognize micro-expressions across species. There it was, the confirmation of the theory their xenobiologists had proposed. The Valfori had a secret vulnerability related to Earth's most abundant resource, and they had just unwittingly confirmed it. The Mariana Command Center hummed with activity 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean. General Wei Chen, his face bearing the scars of the Mars colony disaster 15 years prior, studied holographic displays of Valfori fleet positions with cold calculation. Technicians had just revived him from cryostasis, along with 11 other military strategists preserved for this exact scenario. 27 days until the ultimatum expires, Chen noted, his voice still raspy from the revival process. Show me what we're working with. Operation Omega activated 16 minutes after first contact, Colonel Jansen reported. Production facilities on the Moon are at 34% capacity and accelerating. The asteroid belt fleet is at 61% readiness. Planetary defense grid at 28%. Chen's expression remained unchanged, but his eyes revealed concern. Not enough time. We need a diversion. Dr. Elena Reyes entered, accompanied by Dr. Samira Khalid, a thin woman with perpetually shaking hands and haunted eyes. 15 armed guards escorted her, a precaution for someone who had been imprisoned for developing theoretical weapons too dangerous to exist. The Security Council has granted your request, Elena told Chen. Dr. Khalid has been temporarily released to complete her research. Khalid looked around nervously. The Hammond particle was never meant to be weaponized. I developed it for energy production, and now it will save our species, Chen replied without sympathy. How quickly can you adapt it for defensive applications? Khalid's eyes darted between the armed guards. 3 weeks, maybe less with proper resources. But you don't understand. It doesn't just disrupt energy fields. It can unravel the quantum structure of matter itself, if calibrated incorrectly. Earth will be dust either way if we fail, Chen interrupted. Get her whatever she needs. In another section of the facility, Elena joined a team of 12 specialists, linguists, cryptographers, and behavioral analysts, many displaying traits of neurodivergence. Their workspace was chaotic by military standards, walls covered with equations, scattered notes, and unusual stimming tools. Dr. Miguel Sanchez, a mathematician who hadn't spoken aloud in 14 years, communicated through a neural interface as he manipulated 3-dimensional patterns of Valfori communication signals. They found it, Elena realized, watching the patterns align into recognizable structures. The encryption isn't mathematical, it's musical. A young woman with synesthesia nodded vigorously. Their language has embedded chromatic patterns. What looks like random noise is actually color-based information we can't perceive without conversion. Elena studied the decrypted fragments. This is their battle plan, standard formations, deployment schedules, targeting priorities. Her blood ran cold as she reached the section detailing post-conquest protocols. They've already cataloged human genetic sequences they consider harvestable. The rest are classified as biological waste. Meanwhile, around the world, carefully orchestrated chaos unfolded. Riots in major cities concealed the movement of millions to hardened subterranean shelters. Military exercises masked the deployment of experimental weapons. Former rivals, China, America, Russia, India, integrated their defense systems under the Omega Protocol. On a private channel, the Chinese premier spoke candidly with the American president. We've been preparing for this since the Proxima Centauri signals were decrypted in 2037. Nearly 20 years, the president agreed. Let's hope it was enough. Deep within Mount Everest's classified research facility, Dr. Khalid calibrated equipment that hadn't existed 6 hours earlier, manufactured by 3D printers working at molecular scale. The Hammond particle exhibits properties similar to both matter and energy, yet is fundamentally neither, she explained to her hastily assembled team. It exists partially outside our dimensional reality, which is why it bypasses conventional shields. She activated the prototype, and a small sphere of swirling blue-violet light appeared, hovering above the containment field. Several researchers instinctively stepped back. If I'm right about the Valfori shield frequency, this should pass through their defenses like they don't exist, Khalid whispered. But there's something else, something I never reported in my published research. Her hand trembled as she adjusted the calibration. The sphere pulsed, changed color to emerald green. The particle doesn't just disrupt energy fields, she said, her voice barely audible. In this configuration, it can disrupt neural implants, like the ones we detected in Ambassador Karith's brain scans. Commander Drex paced the command deck of the Valfori warship Indomitable, his translucent skin flushed with agitation. 3 weeks into the standard subjugation protocol, and the humans had offered neither surrender nor attempted resistance. Their behavior pattern matched no previous conquest in Valfori records. Status of Jupiter mining installation targeting, he demanded, mandibles clicking impatiently. Targeting solution complete, Commander, his weapons officer responded. Colony infrastructure presents minimal defense capabilities. Estimated 8,400 human workers present. Drex's inner eyelids flicked with anticipation. At 32 cycles, he was the youngest fleet commander in Valfori history, his rapid rise fueled by ruthless efficiency. This human subjugation would accelerate his path to the inner command circle. Commence demonstration attack. Record all aspects for transmission to Earth authorities. The Indomitable's primary weapons charge, targeting the sprawling industrial complex that hugged Jupiter's largest moon. Energy lanced across space, tearing through the station's outer rings. Explosions blossomed in the vacuum. Spectacular devastation visible, even from Earth observatories. Drex recorded his victory message, mandibles spread in the Valfori expression of dominance. Let this be the first taste-off. Commander, his tactical officer interrupted, voice pitched with confusion. Scanning debris field. No biological signatures detected. The station was empty. Drex's flush deepened to purple. Impossible. Verify. Confirmed, Commander. No human casualties. The station appears to have been evacuated prior to our arrival. Before Drex could process this anomaly, sensor alerts flashed across the command interface. Unidentified vessels detected near Saturn's rings. Configuration matches Earth defense ships. Primitive design, minimal armament. Drex mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of Valfori amusement. Perfect opportunity to demonstrate proper consequence. Target and eliminate. The Indomitable led 4 escort destroyers toward the small Earth fleet, 12 vessels that appeared fragile against the gas giant's majestic rings. Standard Valfori doctrine dictated overwhelming force against even minor resistance. Captain Maya Ortiz felt the neural interface sync with her ship's systems, her consciousness expanding to encompass the Icarus and its 11 sister ships. The experimental technology, once banned in professional space racing after she'd used it to win the Mars circuit 4 times consecutively, now served a higher purpose. All pilots, initiating scatter protocol on my mark, she subvocalized, the command traveling instantly through the neural network. Remember your simulator training. 3 seconds maximum exposure before utilizing ring debris as cover. The approaching Valfori warships fired their first volley. Energy weapons designed to cripple vessels twice their size. Mark. The Earth vessels performed a maneuver physically impossible for manually piloted craft, splitting apart with acceleration that would have killed unaugmented humans. Ortiz felt her ship's synthetic muscles contract through the neural link, her consciousness calculating trajectories through Saturn's rings that conventional navigation computers couldn't process. Aboard the Indomitable, alarms blared as targeting systems lost lock. Impossible movement pattern, the tactical officer reported. Their acceleration exceeds structural limitations of their hull design. Drex watched in disbelief as the human vessels danced through Saturn's rings, using ice fragments as both shields and weapons. When 3 Earth ships emerged from the debris field, his weapons officer fired reflexively, only for the energy beams to be absorbed by the ship's hulls, which momentarily glowed before redirecting the energy back toward his escort destroyers. Adaptive hull material, the science officer reported, voice trembling. "It's converting our weapon's energy and—" The first Valfori destroyer erupted in flames as its engine core overloaded. The second spun out of control, venting atmosphere. The third suffered catastrophic shield failure as ice fragments accelerated by the Earth ships penetrated its defenses at speeds exceeding normal kinetic weaponry. Ortiz piloted the Icarus in a direct approach to the Indomitable, her neural interface processing tactical data faster than conscious thought. The massive Valfori flagship fired its main batteries, only for the Icarus to execute an impossible corkscrew maneuver, energy blasts missing by meters. "Targeting their primary command node," she subvocalized. "Deploying Hammond disruptors." Microscopic drones, each carrying a fragment of Dr. Khalid's experimental particle, attached to the Indomitable's hull, bypassing shields designed to stop conventional weapons. Drex felt the ship shudder as systems began failing sequentially. For the first time in his military career, he gave the order he'd never imagined necessary. "Disengage. Return to Earth orbit immediately." As the damaged Valfori fleet retreated, Ortiz allowed herself a small smile before subvocalizing to her squadron. "Saturn defense complete. Returning to Shadow Protocol." The Earth ships vanished into the swirling storms of Saturn's atmosphere, leaving Drex to compose the most difficult message of his career, the first report of Valfori defeat in 7 generations. Ambassador Kareth viewed the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. Earth's social networks overflowed with panic as the deadline approached. Worldwide markets had collapsed, religious cults proclaimed the end times, and military coups had overthrown governments in 7 nations. His species had conquered numerous worlds, but none had unraveled quite so spectacularly before the first bombardment even began. "Most gratifying," he commented to his intelligence officer. "Her psychological fragility exceeds projections." The holographic display showed riots in major population centers. In Beijing, protesters stormed government buildings. In New York, the stock exchange had been set ablaze. Most delicious was the footage from an emergency United Nations session where the Chinese premier and American president had devolved into a physical altercation, their security details joining the melee. "Typical of fractured species," the intelligence officer noted. "When faced with existential threats, they turn on each other rather than unifying." Kareth's private communicator chimed, an Earth-based signal using Valfori diplomatic frequencies. Dr. Elena Reyes appeared. Her composure noticeably deteriorated since their first meeting. Her eyes were bloodshot, her clothing disheveled. "Ambassador," she began, voice quavering. "The Earth Council requests a private audience to discuss potential surrender terms." Kareth's inner eyelids flicked with pleasure. "I would be pleased to accept your capitulation, Dr. Reyes." The meeting was arranged aboard his command vessel. Protocol dictated that surrendering species representatives be subjected to intensive scanning, but Kareth ordered minimal security. The psychological impact of their subjugation would be enhanced by an illusion of dignity. Elena arrived wearing formal diplomatic attire adorned with crystalline jewelry. Traditional Earth symbols of peace, according to the cultural database. The subtle tremor in her hands as she presented the ceremonial gifts satisfied Kareth's instinctual desire to witness submission. "These represent Earth's artistic achievement," she explained, offering a necklace of blue-green stones, "a token of our respect for Valfori cultural supremacy." Kareth accepted the ornaments with ceremonial gravity, placing the necklace around his neck as dictated by diplomatic convention. Unknown to him, microscopic transmitters embedded in the stones activated upon contact with his body chemistry, broadcasting his neural patterns to Earth's defense network. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in lava tubes converted to manufacturing facilities, automated systems worked at molecular precision. Dr. Khalid's Hammond particle technology had been miniaturized and mass-produced, each device calibrated to the exact frequency of Valfori shield harmonics. General Chen observed the production lines from a hardened command center. "Status report on lunar defense grid. 96% operational. General, his aide responded. Final deployment phase commencing. The grid remains undetected by Valfori sensors. Chen nodded, turning his attention to another display showing Earth's asteroid belt. There, the true defense fleet, not the decoy ships at Saturn, completed final preparations. These weren't military vessels, but repurposed mining ships, industrial haulers, and civilian transport craft retrofitted with experimental technologies. Confirm quantum phase coding on all vessels, Chen ordered. Confirmed, sir. All ships are now operating at the frequency identified by cryptography team. Valfori sensors show complete blindness to objects vibrating at 27.3 Hz. Chen permitted himself a rare smile. The neurodivergent analysts were correct. Begin final deployment into ambush configuration. In his private quarters, Ambassador Kareth reviewed Alina's surrender proposal. The terms were surprisingly reasonable, humans requesting only minimal cultural preservation rights while accepting complete Valfori authority. Their only unusual stipulation was a 3-day ceremonial period before official surrender. A perfect delay tactic, yet he granted it without hesitation. 3 more days for humans to witness their civilization crumbling would only enhance their psychological subjugation. The ornamental necklace Alina had given him rested on his desk. He found himself oddly drawn to it, the patterns in the stones almost hypnotic. A small headache had developed shortly after the meeting, but he dismissed it as the strain of managing this particularly complex conquest. Unknown to Kareth, the nanoscopic transmitters in the jewelry had already mapped his neural architecture, identifying the artificial implants that regulated his aggression and suppressed his empathy. And with each passing hour, Dr. Khalid's team refined the Hammond particle frequency that would disrupt those implants when the time came. On Earth, the chaos continued, all meticulously orchestrated. The riots were elaborate productions staged by entertainment industry professionals. The feuding world leaders were sophisticated deep-fake constructions, and as Valfori intelligence smugly reported human civilization's collapse, the real preparations accelerated in perfect secrecy. The final hour of the ultimatum arrived with eerie silence. Across Earth, communications arrays powered down simultaneously. Broadcast stations went dark. Power grids dimmed to minimal output. Even residential electromagnetic emissions ceased as if humanity had collectively held its breath. Aboard the Valfori command ship, Ambassador Kareth stared at empty communication channels where Alina Rice's surrender transmission should have appeared. His headache had intensified. The crystalline necklace she'd given him now locked in a secure compartment after his medical officer suggested it might be causing his discomfort. Explanation for communications blackout, he demanded. His communications officer's mandibles clicked nervously. Unknown, Ambassador. All Earth transmissions ceased exactly 3.6 minutes ago. No emergency broadcasts, no military communications, nothing. Commander Drex, his status diminished after the Saturn debacle, saw opportunity in this development. They're attempting psychological tactics, Ambassador. I recommend immediate advance to strike position. Kareth hesitated. Something felt wrong. A sensation foreign to Valfori tactical doctrine. Standard protocol dictated advancing when faced with unexpected behavior. Yet, an unfamiliar instinct urged caution. Advance the fleet to lunar orbit, he finally ordered, but maintain defensive formation. As the Valfori armada moved forward, their sensors detected an anomaly. Ambassador, the moon's mass distribution has changed since our initial scans, reported the science officer. Density variations inconsistent with natural formation. Explain, Kareth demanded. Unknown. Our gravitational sensors indicate thousands of small regularized density changes throughout the lunar crust, but visual scans show nothing unusual. Drex dismissed the concern. Primitive mining operations, nothing more. The humans have extensive lunar resources extraction. As the fleet approached lunar orbit, every screen throughout the Valfori ships suddenly activated simultaneously, even personal devices and systems not connected to central communications. Alina Rice's face appeared, her earlier disheveled appearance replaced by calm resolve. "We warned you," she said simply. "Goodbye." Before any Valfori officer could respond, the lunar surface fractured along artificial fault lines. Thousands of launch silos, previously disguised as natural craters, opened simultaneously. What emerged wasn't missiles but clouds of microscopic drones, each smaller than a grain of sand, powered by Hammond particles. Unidentified objects approaching. The tactical officer shouted, "Numbers beyond counting capacity." "Raise shields to maximum," Drex ordered. The drone swarms surrounded the Valfori ships like glittering metallic fog. Where they touched the energy shields, they didn't explode or disintegrate. They simply passed through as if the supposedly impenetrable barriers didn't exist. "Impossible," the science officer exclaimed. "They're bypassing shield harmonics through some form of phase shifting." Inside the ships, the drones attached to control systems, weapons arrays, and propulsion nodes. Unlike conventional attacks, they didn't destroy, they disabled with surgical precision. Kareth watched in horror as ship after ship reported critical systems failures. His own vessel's weapons went offline, followed by engines, then life support switched to emergency reserves. "Ambassador," his sensor officer called out, detecting massive energy signatures from the asteroid belt. From the darkness between planets emerged Earth's true fleet. Not the decoy fighters from Saturn, but hundreds of converted mining vessels, cargo haulers, and colony ships. Repurposed civilian craft bristling with improvised weapons. The vessels approached at velocities the Valfori sensors struggled to track, their quantum phase coding rendering them visible only at certain intervals, creating the illusion they were teleporting through space. Simultaneously, Earth's oceans churned as massive submarine carriers surfaced. From their launch bays rose thousands of atmospheric fighters, each a synthesis of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Valfori technology. Ambassador Kareth, witnessing his invincible armada systematically neutralized in a three-dimensional trap, experienced an emotion no Valfori diplomat had felt in centuries: genuine fear. In the Mariana Command Center, General Chen watched the tactical display as the Valfori fleet was immobilized in synchronicity. No shots fired, no ships destroyed, simply rendered harmless with mathematical precision. Phase 1 complete, he reported to the United Earth Council, transmitting surrender demand to Valfori Command. Dr. Khalid monitored the Hammond particle network, her hands steady for the first time in years. The disruptors are functioning perfectly. Their weapons and propulsion are neutralized, but life support remains intact. Alina Reyes nodded with satisfaction. Prepare for Phase 2. The Valfori are about to learn that humanity doesn't just survive. We triumph without becoming the monsters we defeat. Commander Drex refused to accept defeat. While the Valfori fleet hung powerless in Earth orbit, he manually overrode the command codes of his flagship's auxiliary systems, a contingency never meant to be used. "Ambassador, I've established control of the secondary weapon array," he reported, mandibles rigid with determination. "Authorization to deploy Planet Killer Protocol." Kareth hesitated. The pain in his skull had intensified since Alina's broadcast, strange thoughts intruding into his consciousness. Doubt, uncertainty, even flashes of what might be. Empathy. Such weaknesses had been engineered out of Valfori leadership centuries ago. The Battle Queen must be informed, Kareth argued, but Drex was already initializing the gravitational displacement weapon, technology reserved for species that rejected proper subjugation. "Our defeat would be unforgivable," Drex replied, bypassing final safety protocols. "Better to destroy this world than return in failure." The weapon charge, drawing energy from the ship's emergency reserves. A sphere of distorted space formed before the Indomitable's prow, reality itself warping as gravitational forces concentrated to planet-shattering levels. "Target locked on Earth's core," Drex announced. Firing. The weapon discharge, a silent, invisible force that should have penetrated to the planet's center, causing catastrophic tectonic disruption. Instead, the gravitational wave struck what appeared to be an energy field surrounding Earth, a shimmering blue barrier that hadn't been visible until impact. "Impossible," Drex exclaimed. "No species possesses planetary shield technology." On the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Prometheus, Dr. Khalid monitored the shield harmonics with grim satisfaction. "The gravitational attack has been absorbed. Shield integrity at 94% and stabilizing." General Chen nodded. Their desperation was anticipated. "Signal all vessels to execute Phase 2. Throughout the paralyzed Valthori fleet, the microscopic Hammond drones reconfigured, targeting weapons systems exclusively. Where before they had merely disabled, now they systematically dismantled. Molecular bonds dissolving as critical components simply fell apart. Aboard the Indomitable, Drex watched in horror as his gravitational weapon disintegrated before his eyes, component atoms separating in defiance of physical laws. "They're not destroying our ships," the science officer realized. "They're selectively disarming us while leaving life support intact." Karith struggled to comprehend such tactics. Valthori doctrine held that mercy was inefficient, yet these humans were deliberately preserving Valthori lives while ensuring they could no longer pose a threat. "Ambassador," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the Valthori homeworld. The Battle Queen herself." The holographic projection that materialized made even Drex step back in deference. Battle Queen Xeris. Undefeated in 3 centuries of conquest, her translucent skin, darkened with ritual war pigments, regarded the situation with cold fury. "Explain this failure," she commanded. Before Karith could respond, the Queen's ship emerged from a tear in spacetime itself, a jump gate connecting directly to the Valthori homeworld. The Dreadnought, 3 times larger than any vessel in the original fleet, positioned itself above Earth's atmosphere. In the Mariana Command Center, alarms blared as sensors detected the quantum disturbance. "Unexpected development," Chen reported tensely. "The Valthori Battle Queen has arrived personally with significant reinforcements." Elena Reyes studied the tactical display, showing the massive dreadnought. "Can our defenses handle a vessel of that magnitude?" "The Hammond drones are effective, but deployment against a ship that size would take hours," Dr. Khalid warned. "And their jump gate technology suggests capabilities beyond what we've observed." Chen's expression hardened. "Initiate Ghost Protocol." Across Earth, 12 volunteers stepped forward. Terminal cancer patients who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. Their bodies had been infused with experimental nanites that masked their biological signatures, while extending their remaining lifespans just long enough for one final service to humanity. Captain Hiroshi Takamura, former Special Forces commander now in the final stages of pancreatic cancer, addressed his squad in the launch bay beneath Mount Fuji. "Our mission is capture, not assassination," he reminded them, checking his Hammond particle sidearm. "We board the Queen's vessel, neutralize her security, and secure her alive for Dr. Rice's demonstration." The team boarded a stealth shuttle specifically designed to exploit Valthori sensory limitations. Its hull vibrated at precisely 27.3 Hz, invisible to Valthori sensors, as it launched toward the Queen's dreadnought. As Battle Queen Xeris prepared to demonstrate proper conquest methodology to her failed subordinates, she remained unaware that 12 dying humans were about to change the course of galactic history. Battle Queen Xeris moved through her dreadnought with predatory grace, her ceremonial armor adorned with trophies from 100 conquered species. 3 centuries of uninterrupted victory had made her name synonymous with inevitable domination throughout the known galaxy. "Display tactical overview," she commanded upon reaching the central war chamber. The 3-dimensional projection materialized, showing her immobilized fleet and the surprisingly sophisticated Earth defenses. "Fascinating," she observed, inner eyelids flickering with interest rather than the expected rage. "No species has achieved this level of resistance since the Arcturus Confederation." Her chief strategist approached cautiously. Your Eminence, our analysis suggests the humans possess technology that should be beyond their developmental stage. Clearly, she replied, studying the lunar defense grid with professional appreciation. They've been preparing for us specifically. The question is, how did they know we were coming? While the Queen analyzed Earth's defenses, Captain Takamura's stealth shuttle approached the dreadnought's ventral maintenance access, a vulnerability identified through Alina's jewelry transmitters. The 12 Ghost Protocol volunteers moved with practiced precision despite their deteriorating bodies. Life signs stable, Takamura asked Dr. Ibarra, the team's medical specialist. Ibarra checked his nanite monitor. The cancer suppression is holding. We have approximately 6 hours before cellular breakdown accelerates beyond containment. More than enough time, Takamura replied, securing his helmet. The specialized filtration system would prevent their coughing, a symptom they all shared, from compromising the mission. Using the magnetic grapples designed to mimic Valthori maintenance drones, the team attached to the dreadnought's hull. Their specialized cutting tools, incorporating Hammond particle technology, created an opening that Valthori sensors registered as a routine atmospheric adjustment. Inside, they navigated through maintenance conduits too narrow for Valthori physiology, another design flaw identified through Alina's intelligence gathering. The alien ship's massive scale made human infiltrators seem like inconsequential parasites, too small to trigger internal security protocols. Meanwhile, Earth's defense fleet engaged in a carefully choreographed distraction. Captain Maya Ortiz led her squadron in a series of high-visibility maneuvers, drawing the dreadnought's attention while carefully avoiding actual engagement. Maintain neural synchronization, she subvocalized to her pilots. Remember, we're not trying to win, just to be noticed. Battle Queen Xeris observed the human vessels with growing curiosity. Their tactics are intentionally conspicuous. They want our focus on their ships. Her suspicion triggered a realization. Initiate internal security sweep, non-standard parameters. Search for anomalies below standard detection thresholds. Within the dreadnought's central core, Takamura's team reached the Queen's private chamber moments before the security alert sounded. They positioned Hammond disruptors at key junctions, creating a containment field that would isolate the chamber from the rest of the ship. 30 seconds until the Queen returns to her quarters, whispered Lieutenant Ramen, monitoring Valthori communications through a hacked subsystem. The nanites in his bloodstream fought to contain his aggressive leukemia for just a few hours more. When Battle Queen Xeris entered her private sanctuary, she sensed the intruders immediately, a predator's instinct that had served her through centuries of combat. Her ceremonial armor's defensive systems activated automatically, generating an energy field that should have incinerated any unauthorized presence. Instead, the Hammond disruptors created a localized phase shift that rendered her weapons impotent. The Queen found herself confronted by 12 human warriors, their bodies visibly ravaged by disease, yet their eyes clear with purpose. Impossible, she hissed, reaching for her neural command implant that would summon guards. Takamura fired a specialized Hammond pulse that paralyzed the Queen's nervous system without causing permanent damage. She remained conscious but immobilized as the team secured her. Target acquired, Takamura reported through their secure channel. Initiating Phase 3. Dr. Elena Reyes entered moments later through a quantum translocation portal, technology reverse-engineered from Valthori jump gate principles. Behind her came Dr. Khalid, carrying equipment designed to interface with the neural implants they had detected in Ambassador Kareth. Battle Queen Xeris, Elena addressed the paralyzed monarch. We have much to discuss about your species' true history and the artificial constructs controlling your minds. The Queen's eyes widened as Elena activated a holographic display showing ancient Valthori artifacts recovered from Mercury, remnants of a scout ship that had crashed millennia ago, containing historical records predating their current empire. Before we show you the truth, Elena continued, you should know that your fleet has been completely neutralized without a single Valthori casualty. Humanity chose mercy where you would have chosen extermination. Remember that when you see what was taken from your people. Battle Queen Xeris stared at the holographic evidence with mounting horror. The images showed ancient Valthori, physiologically identical to modern specimens, yet culturally unrecognizable. They built gardens instead of warships. Their translucent skin, evolved for camouflage in crystalline forests, displayed bioluminescent poetry rather than battle scars. Most shocking were the historical records showing first contact with the now extinct precursors, not as conquerors, but as victims. "This cannot be true," she whispered, her paralysis now more from psychological shock than the Hammond field. "Your neural implants were first introduced during what your history calls the Great Ascension," Dr. Khalid explained, displaying a microscopic scan of the devices found in Ambassador Kirith's brain. "They stimulate aggression while suppressing empathy and curiosity, emotional states your original physiology strongly expressed." Elena indicated another hologram showing Valthori genetic code. "The precursors didn't just conquer your people, they fundamentally rewrote you, turning a species of explorer poets into the perfect conquest machine." The Queen's eyes darted to Captain Takamura, noticing the tremor in his hands, the pallor of his skin. "You are dying," she observed. Takamura nodded. "Terminal pancreatic cancer. Everyone on my team volunteered knowing this mission would consume our remaining days. You chose certain death to capture rather than kill me." Xeris realized. Such sacrifice for mere information transfer is inefficient. "Efficiency isn't always the point," Elena replied. "Sometimes understanding is worth more than survival." Dr. Khalid approached with a specialized medical device. "With your permission, we can temporarily neutralize your neural implants. You'll experience your consciousness without artificial constraints, perhaps for the first time since your ascension ceremony." After a moment's hesitation, the Queen nodded. The process took only moments, but the effect was profound. As the implant's influence faded, Xeris gasped, centuries of artificially constrained thought suddenly expanding. Memories long suppressed surfaced, her childhood before neural modification. Fragments of art and music, her first poems written in bioluminescent patterns across her skin. "By the ancient stars," she whispered, her voice transformed by emotion, previously incapable of expression. "What have we become?" Throughout the immobilized Valthori fleet, a similar awakening began as Dr. Khalid's team broadcast the calibrated Hammond resonance that disrupted the neural implants without harming brain tissue. Many Valthori collapsed in shock as suppressed memories returned. Some wept, an emotional response thought eradicated from their species generations ago. In the Mariana Command Center, General Chen watched the transformation with cautious optimism. "Maintain defensive posture," he ordered. "Neural liberation does not guarantee peaceful intentions." But his concerns proved unnecessary. As awareness spread through the Valthori ranks, weapon systems were voluntarily deactivated. The Battle Queen herself sent authentication codes to the homeworld, halting the preparation of reinforcement fleets. 6 hours later, in a broadcast transmitted across both fleets, Elena Reyes and Queen Xeris stood side by side on the United Earth Council platform. "Today marks not the end of conflict, but its transcendence," Elena announced. "Not victory through destruction, but liberation through understanding." Queen Xeris removed her battle armor for the first time in public memory, revealing skin illuminated with intricate patterns, poetry in the ancient Valthori tradition. "My people have lived as biological automatons for generations, conquering because we were programmed to conquer, destroying because we were engineered to destroy." She turned to face Elena. "Humanity did what no species before has accomplished. They saw beyond our artificial aggression to the truth of our nature. They chose to free rather than annihilate us." The rehabilitation process began immediately. Earth medical ships docked with Valthori vessels, providing technology to safely remove or neutralize the neural implants. In exchange, Valthori medical knowledge, previously used only to enhance warriors, was repurposed to treat human disease. Captain Takamura and his team, their mission complete, received the highest honors from both species. Though the nanites could not cure their terminal conditions, Valfori cellular regeneration techniques extended their lives long enough to witness the peace they had helped create. 1 month later, the first joint Earth-Valfori expedition departed for the fringes of known space. Aboard the exploration vessel Harmony, Dr. Khalid and her Valfori counterpart, formerly a weapons scientist, activated an experimental drive using harmonized Hammond particles. The fabric of space-time parted, revealing pathways to dimensions previously unimagined. As the ship accelerated into the unknown, the quantum beacon they left behind broadcast a dual message across the galaxy. To peaceful civilizations, an invitation to join the newly formed alliance of free species. To would-be conquerors, footage of the Earth-Valfori encounter with a simple warning. We are humanity. We forge peace where possible but will defend ourselves when necessary. We judge by actions, not appearances. We heal what we could destroy. Come in friendship, or do not come at all. Throughout the vastness of space, the message spread, and one by one, listening species took note. Earth's warning was impossible to ignore.